even know what the word drops means. Like I know now that it all happens today and we can see all these episodes at once. But, I'm used to the world where you watch one episode every week and you wait for the next one to come out. I enjoy Netflix shows so much. My husband and I, once we get into a show, we sort of can't stop. You know that thing where you can't go to sleep because you need to see the rest of the episodes? We've done that before.
That's me on like, do you have like certain binges that you've done
Well,
lately?
lately it's so many. The Dropout was amazing. Amanda Seyfried, amazing.
So
Her work was
good.
incredible in that. And then what did we just finish after The Dropout? What's what is it? Oh, defending. Oh, inventing Anna, the Anna Del, that whole thing, inventing Anna, so good. And now we just started Anatomy. Is it Anatomy of a Serial Killer? Anatomy of a Scandal with Sienna Miller. So see, I'm into it. Like once we get into it, we can't stop.
That's why it's great when it's like it all just drops at once and
I
you
love
know.
it. Yeah.
Well, in addition to David E. Kelly and Neve Campbell, I mean, reuniting with your Ugly Betty co-star Christopher Gorham. Now, I have to say, as I said, I'm on like almost at the end of episode 6, episode after episode. I'm like, please, please just let them have a scene together. Now, Christopher
Oh,
was
thank
already
you.
here, and I know that that doesn't happen, but
No,
you
it
know,
does. We're in an elevator together. He probably forgot. I'm going to have to talk to him about that. He forgot the memorable scene of our characters riding the elevator together.
well, and I have to say, he told me that, and he actually sent them to me, these little like 5 second, maybe they're like 20-second clips that he took of the two of you, of like
Yes,
Amanda and Henry.
goofing around behind the scenes. Yes.
Well, I'm going to post those when this comes out.
As you should. No, Chris Gorham is one of the nicest people. And I have a story about him when we did Ugly Betty together. Sadly, my father passed away after the first season. And I didn't know Chris. He was in a very different storyline. He was always with Betty. Well, I was always at Mode Magazine. And one day he was asking me, he said, "Oh, how was your summer?" We'd been on break and I told him what had happened. And we didn't talk very much about it. But that night, the biggest box of chocolate chip cookies showed up from Milk. I don't know if you've ever had them. They were chocolate with chocolate chip, with a little note from Chris. And I'll never forget that little act of kindness that happened at a time where I really, really appreciated it. So for me, every time I see Chris Gorham, I hug him and I say, "Where are my chocolate chip cookies?" Because he really should deliver them to me every time he sees me.
Kind of. I mean, and I live in New York City, so milk is literally, if you have to get chocolate chip cookies,
They're
those are the
so good.
best.
And he introduced me. It's all his fault.
It's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
What about Ugly Betty and the man? Like, did you realize? I mean, I know like hindsight's 2020, but like, did you understand like when you were on the show for all those years and making this what this meant to people and how this would just become a lot of people's favorite show ever?
I think we all knew that what we were doing was different. Now, for me, I just graduated college. I have a European history degree and a Spanish degree, and I was doing commercials in New York City. I would have been thrilled to continue to do my Olive Garden commercials and the sort of those little jobs that I was doing. Ugly Betty fell in my lap, and I was so grateful. And I basically got a master class in acting from Judith Light, from America Ferrera, Vanessa Williams, Michael Urie, who is one of my best friends to this day. I kind of learned from these masters while having this amazing time. And there was the fashion, and we got to go to all the award shows. So early on, I had such a complete experience that after Ugly Betty ended, anything that comes up, I just feel like it's icing on the cake. There aren't a lot of actors and a lot of female actresses that I know that can say I've had my dream job. And from there, it's all just fun and it's all a thrill. And there are different things in every job. I sort of find something different to take away from it. And I attribute that to having this experience that was so complete so early on.
Wow. What did you learn like in particular from either like a Judith Light or like a Vanessa Williams?
I think it was work hard and behave yourself, right? Know your lines, and there's no drama. You show up ready to work, and I mean, Vanessa knew her first take. She knew all her lines, and from Michael, I learned he is first of all, he's so funny. So I actually wasn't very professional. Anytime I was near Michael, I would just start laughing. Before we even started a scene, I would be laughing. I ruined so many hours of footage just laughing at Michael. But they have this incredible craft so that when they show up, they're ready. And I learned that right away. Show up, let your first take be amazing, and then go from there.
Wow. What about, there's so much talk about like reboots these days. Like, have you guys had any, serious talks of any reboots? And
I think we all know that we all would, and it's something that we would love to do. I think there's so many pieces that have to come together, but I certainly can speak for everyone and say that's something we would want for sure. Even if Amanda is like 90 still answering the phone, I think I would still be very into that.
I was just gonna say, like, where do you think Amanda is today?
She didn't go anywhere. She wants to know why no one's coming to work all this time. And she just sits in her office filing her nails. I don't think she ever really answered the phone anyway, so she doesn't notice that it's not ringing. But she is still just sitting there wondering where everyone went, wearing all the clothing, because that in her mind was her only job.
Is she like, wait a second, these people look different? Like, what happened to all of my old friends that used to
No,
work
I don't think
here?
she noticed. I don't think she notices because she's probably FaceTiming Mark all the time anyway.
I love it. What about like, do you think a reboot could be done like without like Silvio here? Like, I mean, it would obviously be different.
Yeah, it would be different. I think I would hope if we could that it would honor Silvio's vision because it was such a beautiful vision.
It really was, and it's such a great show. What about, just from the point of like diversity and inclusion, like it's such a thing, and like even like look at like Netflix and like what they did with like Lincoln Lawyer, like, but I mean, Ugly Betty was so ahead of its time in that sense. I mean, did you have an
Yeah.
appreciation for that? Like,
Yeah, I think I actually was more surprised in the recent discussions about inclusion being this new thing. Ugly Betty was doing that 15 years ago, and wasn't talking about inclusion. They were telling a story. So I really appreciate all the discussions that are happening now, and I was a little bit spoiled back then because it was just built in. It was just part of the success of this story was the inclusion.
I think so too. Before we move on from Ugly Betty, like, do you have like a particular favorite episode or just like a
Oh,
storyline?
there was one, I mean, so many. I think there was one day where I don't think I was able to actually say any lines because it was a scene with Michael and I, Mark and Amanda, and we were trying to write a song about finding Amanda's adoptive father. And Michael Urie had a tiny Casio keyboard and was wearing Elton John sunglasses and a fedora. And we were trying to write a song, and Amanda made the worst song ever. And when I finished singing, he took off his glasses with a tear in his eye. And he said, "That was the most beautiful song I've ever heard." And every time he turned to me with these glasses on, with that look on his face, I ruined the scene. So I'll never forget how much my stomach hurt for a week after from laughing that hard. The scene's very funny, but when I tell you the behind the scenes was much more amusing. We couldn't get it together. The crew was like, "Come on, this isn't funny anymore." And the more people say that when you're laughing, the harder it is to ever keep a straight face.
I would literally think almost every scene that you guys were in together would just be like,
But it got to the point where they would say action and I'd start laughing. He's like, "I didn't do anything." I said, "I know, but you're